How's it going? And welcome back to another episode of Mood for Feud. I'm your host Katya, and today I am in the mood for news. I feel like it's been a hot minute since we did some trending topics, and there's a lot going on. So I've just picked 4 or 5 random topics from trending things that have been coming across my social feeds this last week or two. And I'm just going to be running through them pretty casual, pretty off the cuff. Yeah, pretty much just giving my 2 cents into all of these. Remember, if you enjoy the show and would like to support it, then please do leave a rating. You can leave comments on Spotify, written reviews on Apple Podcasts, and you can follow the show so you never miss an episode. I'm also on socials at Mood for Feud, and I'm always looking to chat pop culture, so send me a message there. Okay, the first trending topic that I have to address, have to get into, it's more of a follow-up actually, more of a part 2.5. It's not quite fully fledged enough to be a part 3. I am, of course, talking about Kendrick Lamar and Drake. We've got more bloody feuding from these two. So I'll give a little follow-up on things that have happened since I covered the feud, and if you haven't listened to that episode, good chance to check it out. There's a part 1 and part 2. I think I released these around August. And yeah, so since then, in September, it was announced that Kendrick was going to be performing at the Super Bowl in 2025. That already had a bunch of controversy attached to it because Lil Wayne felt like he should be given the Super Bowl spot because it is being held in New Orleans, and that's obviously where Lil Wayne is from, and so he kind of felt like he should have been asked to perform there instead of Kendrick. And Kendrick has also already done a Super Bowl performance before, but I don't know, it doesn't work like that, does it? Like, I don't think, or maybe it does, correct me if I'm wrong, I've certainly never noticed that artists who are from where the Super Bowl is held are going to be the ones who get asked to perform. Is that a thing? I've never clicked onto that. So yeah, anyway, that was its own little drama. And then more recently, on the 22nd of November, Kendrick surprise released an album. There was absolutely no build up to this. It literally he just dropped it out of the blue, and it's titled GNX. I think a lot of people were expecting this to have a lot of shots at Drake, but from what I've heard, I haven't done a full deep dive listen to this in all honesty, but from what I've seen and the little snippets of songs that I have heard, I don't think it's taking that many direct shots at Drake, which I will say is a good thing. I don't think we needed a whole nother run of diss tracks. I don't like Drake either, you know, like I'm pretty vocal about that, but I just don't think I need a whole album of more Drake tracks. Like, I think the stuff Kendrick has released is sufficient. It gives us more than enough ammunition, and personally, I felt like I didn't need to hear anything more. So from what I've seen, I am glad that it's not just a whole Drake diss album, if I'm being perfectly honest. But there are little lines here and there that people do think are about Drake, and then he does have a song on GNX that's titled Heart Part 6, which is a pretty direct reference to Drake's song, The Heart Part 6, that we covered in the feud. So, you know, he's not forgotten about it, he's not moved on per se, but it's also not Kendrick's entire personality, which I am glad for. But yeah, that was a nice surprise. This is the first time that Kendrick has released an album since 2022, when he released Mr. Morale and The Big Steppers. But the thing that I want to get into is Drake's lawsuit that he filed, because on the 25th of November, Drake's label Frozen Moments, they are a subsidiary of Universal Music Group, and they filed a petition in New York Supreme Court against Universal Music Group, accusing them of using illegal methods to fabricate the success of Kendrick's song Not Like Us. Now, if you recall, we went all into Not Like Us, a full breakdown of the song in part 2 of the Kendrick and Drake feud, and there were a lot of shots taken at Drake. You know, Kendrick called him a pedophile, alleged that he was into underage girls and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. There was also an entire music video that came out around that as well. Yeah, so it was a pretty big song, and it went pretty viral, I guess. Well, no, it went incredibly viral to the point where Kendrick was at that concert and he performed Not Like Us 6 times in a row, and all 6 times the crowd was absolutely hyped. So yeah, it was a massive moment on the internet. But now Drake's label is suing on the basis that Universal Music Group conspired with and paid unknown parties to use bots to artificially inflate the spread of Not Like Us and deceive consumers into believing the song was more popular than it really was. I think this claim is so interesting because, first of all, I think the use of bots in general is something that we don't talk about enough, because it happens all the time and it happens right in front of our eyes, and I just have this feeling like people don't really click onto it, and like myself included, but I've started to grow a little bit more sketch lately, and just when I keep seeing the same comment and it's got like the same type of language and the exact same grammar, and I see it posted over and over and over again, I start to think like, oh my gosh, is this a bot? And let me tell you, this happens more often than you think when there is just a little bit of scandal or a little bit of drama happening on the internet, and you'll see that one comment that's just repeated under, and it doesn't matter whether you're on Instagram, on Facebook, or on TikTok, you will see the exact wording and this exact comment popping up over and over and over again. Around the time when the It Ends With Us scandal was happening, that Blake Lively was obviously heavily involved with, and then we suddenly had a big influx of like articles all about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's relationship and how cute of a couple they are. And I did, off the back of those articles, see a bunch of comments on posts about Blake Lively or about Ryan Reynolds that would be discussing their relationship, like Ryan and Blake are the cutest couple, #goals or something, for example, would be like the comment. But it's when you see that exact same wording, that exact same sentiment and grammar that then gets completely posted everywhere. I've seen it a couple times. I've definitely seen it with Blake and Ryan. I've also seen it even among influencers, even on that level. You'll just see similar comments. Do you know what? The next time it happens, I'm actually going to start screenshotting and collecting a little bank, because I feel like this is something we just don't talk about enough, but it happens all the time. And of course, granted, it's tricky to pinpoint, exactly what is bot-driven comments and what is just people having the same thought and deciding to comment it, or seeing a repeated thought and then themselves contributing to it as well. But I think it is interesting how often there's just this sort of one voice that comes across in a comment section, or one type of speech that comes across as well. Hopefully this is making sense. But even when people repeat the same types of phrases underneath TikTok videos, right? Like, for example, recently I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people use the phrase "I fear" in TikTok comments, and it repeats itself a lot. And someone would make a video explaining something, and it would be like, "This is me, I fear," or "This is my favorite food product, I fear." And I found myself like using it in my own everyday language as well. But it's interesting because I feel like that type of thing is where that's the type of language that then bots will pick up on as being like, this is now the style of writing that everyone is using, and they will just replicate that over and over again, and it drives up the use of "I fear" because now suddenly we're seeing that in every single comment section. And I do see that the use of bots to drive a thought, it's kind of scary to think about. It's kind of like propaganda, but it's like the more you see it, the more it feels like everyone is saying "I fear," or this is like having its moment and it seems like something that everyone is saying. Yeah, the more that people see it, the more people use it, the more people believe it. And I don't actually, despite being a Drake fucking hater to my core, I don't think it's that off base to accuse a massive music mogul like Universal Music Group taking that and using it to its advantage, because I actually think bot comments is like one of those markets that isn't as tapped into as it could be, or not recognized as being as powerful as it actually is. And this might be, I might be sounding a bit like conspiratorial here, and that's fine. But I just think we need to talk about it more. I want it to be more in the everyday conversation. Another phrase that I see all the time as well is like, hey, so this is insane. You know, that's another one where it's like you see that on a lot of comments, and now it feels like everyone is saying that. And so it would actually be so interesting to go back in time and scroll TikTok around the time that this Drake and Kendrick feud was happening, and just looking at the comments and seeing how many of them are actually original thoughts and how many of them are just the same version of saying one sentence. But I'd be so interested to know, like, is this something that you've picked up on as well? Because I actually just feel like it's getting worse day by day, and the more time I spend on platforms like Instagram and TikTok and stuff, the more I see it happening, and the more I'm just convinced that like it's so hard to tell who is actually starting these written trends in the comment section. Like, is it coming from people or is it coming from bots? But anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. So Drake's label's basically accusing Universal Music Group of doing something similar, like paying bots and using these to, number one, boost Spotify streams, but also to manipulate streaming service statistics and kind of saturate the music market and just overall create more buzz and more hype than there actually organically would have been around the music video. Now, I do think that regardless of whether bots were involved or not Like Us would have been massive either way, because the beef was already huge, everyone was following it, and this was kind of like the final nail in the coffin for Drake, because Kendrick just came at him so ruthlessly, and the song was also incredibly catchy and people just really liked the song. So I think either way, I don't think it's fair to say like we wouldn't have cared so much about Not Like Us if it weren't for the bots. But I'm not against entertaining the idea that maybe there was some manipulation from Universal Music Group to just make the song that much bigger, because yeah, it could have been big on its own, but maybe they were trying to get it to be like astronomical. And there's a bunch of reasons why that would be beneficial to Universal Music Group. Obviously, the feud already had a bunch of traffic behind it, so it makes sense to want to jump on the tidal wave and get some profit out of that as well. But I think it also would have really boosted Kendrick's back catalogue and Drake's back catalogue as well, and seeing as both of these artists have music underneath Universal Music Group, it's like a win-win for them either way. So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what comes off of this petition. I'm interested to see whether it will go any further in the legal system and what will happen next. I'm interested to know how you would prove such a thing and what this investigation would look like. Some other claims that Drake and his attorneys made are that Universal Music Group also paid influencers to boost the song on social media, and also skirted around copyright requirements of social platforms so that the song could be even more popular. Like, there were no barriers or constraints to how viral it could go. And it is a bit interesting as well, because we don't see the use of bots and stuff talked about in the music industry, but a lot of the Billboard Top 100 and, you know, there's a lot of charts and stuff that have real life impact on artists and how well their music does, and yet it's something that's incredibly easy to manipulate with the use of bots. So I mean, I'm sure that they've thought about things like this and there's safeguards in place, but this is something that I just personally haven't really thought about ever. Like, what's to stop an artist from just faking virality? Like, how do you tell who is a real streamer and who is a computer program that's just been designed to play the song on loop a million times 24/7 hours a day? Yeah, interesting stuff. Now, Drake's attorneys also claim that they had received information that Universal Music Group was taking steps to like try and cover up the schemes that they had taken part in, and apparently they were even going as far as to terminate employees who were perceived as having loyalty to Drake. And interestingly, this is another callback to the Feud episode, but the petition also claimed that Universal Music Group paid Apple to have Siri purposely misdirect users to Kendrick's song. If you remember, this is something we talked about in the episode, that people found when they asked Siri to play Drake's song Certified Lover Boy, it would play Kendrick's song Not Like Us instead. And although Drake and his attorneys haven't taken any legal suits against Apple, they have made a claim that Apple was paid by Universal Music Group to have this misdirection take place. It's spicy. I don't know. I've said at the end of our Feud episode that I was over these two and I just didn't want to ever talk about them again, but taking this into the legal space is something that I did not see happening. I didn't think either of them would ever take this kind of thing to court. Now, Universal Music Group is denying everything. They made a statement to Rolling Stone saying, "We employ the highest ethical practices in our marketing and promotional campaigns. No amount of contrived and absurd legal arguments in this pre-action submission can mask the fact that fans choose the music they want to hear." I do also believe that. I'm a little bit torn on this because on one side I'm like, the song was good and people liked it, and that's just general knowledge, that was just common public perception. But then at the same time I'm like, who's to stop you from capitalizing on that even more? Because if there's one thing we've learned is that people are never happy with enough. They want more and more, and it's also almost the perfect cover up, because it's like, why would we use bots for something that's already so successful? And it's like, but that's the perfect time to use them to just become more than successful, to completely break the boundaries, so to speak. Now, shortly after this lawsuit was filed by Drake and his team, Drake also filed a defamation suit in Texas, and this is claiming that Universal Music Group allowed Kendrick Lamar to call him a, quote, certified pedophile as it sought to drive consumer hysteria and, of course, massive revenues. So again, we've got a twofold thing where they're like, you artificially manufactured virality for this song, but you also did it in a song that defamed Drake, and you did that on purpose to drive the feud and drive the public engagement with it. So yeah, again, super interesting. I do think it's a little bit, the defamation suit, I'm kind of like, but you also said so much defamatory shit about Kendrick. So I'm kind of like, are you sure you want to open that can of worms? Because Drake was in his songs saying that Kendrick beats his wife. That is not something to take lightly, and it's also a super serious accusation to make. But I do think that the lawsuit is specifically targeting Universal Music Group. But I'm also like, just because Drake's diss track calling Kendrick a wife beater didn't go as viral, now he's mad. Anyway, yeah, I don't really know how to feel about this. Some people are saying this is all just Drake's attempt to block Kendrick from performing Not Like Us at the Super Bowl. If he can kind of get that song blacklisted, then it means that Kendrick won't be able to perform that. I am definitely going to be watching this space to see if anything actually comes from this petition. I'm interested to know more about the use of bots, but I do think this is something we need to be talking about more often and keeping our wits about us and trying to see how much bot engagement there actually is on the internet. I'm definitely going to be keeping a closer eye on things as I move forward. Okay, let's talk about the Wicked press tour. This is the other thing that has been all over my feed. I haven't seen the movie yet. I do really want to watch it. I love Wicked, the musical. I love the songs. I'm very excited. I've heard that Cynthia Erivo, who plays Elphaba, and Ariana Grande, who plays Glinda, do an exceptional job. I hear that the performances are amazing, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it. And I love musicals. This is right up my alley. I will say though, when did press tours get like this? Do you know what I mean? I feel like since Barbie, maybe earlier, but since the Barbie movie, press tours have been crazy to the point where it's all that will be on your feed. It's all that'll be on your socials for that whole stint of time. And I just don't understand when this became the norm, because it actually gets to a point sometimes where I am sick of a movie before it has even come out, because of all the shit that I see online in the lead up. And with Wicked, I mean, it's just been crazy. Cynthia and Ariana have been doing a bunch of interviews, obviously always dressed in their character's style of clothing, right? Cynthia always wearing the green, Ariana always wearing the pink, and it's very much like how Margot Robbie basically wore hot pink for like 2 months before the Barbie movie came out. But we also have a ton of merch as well. I've seen so much Wicked merch. I've seen Wicked board games, Wicked drink bottles, lunchboxes, t-shirts, like you name it, there's a Wicked version of it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just too much. Isn't it too much? I'm feeling like I am over it. And this is coming from someone who is excited to see the movie and loves musicals, and even I'm like, this is crazy. Like, when did we start behaving this way over movies? And aren't people exhausted by it? And I mean, I can't even imagine how the cast feels, because they've already been working on this movie for like 2 years, and now they have to make it literally their entire personality for another 2 months. Is this really what we want though, is I guess my biggest question, because it just doesn't make me want to watch the movie, in all honesty. I hit a bit of a fatigue point a couple weeks back where I skipped past every single Wicked interview that popped up on my feed because I'm so over it. And I'd just love to know how other people are feeling, because yeah, I just can't, I don't want this to be the norm for movies moving forward. It's too much for me. Personally, I keep going back as well, like, it's literally just a movie, but it's being made into so much more than that. And I have to admit that the interviews that Cynthia and Ariana are giving are also contributing to this, because if you've seen any of them, you'll know that their interviews are incredibly emotional every single time. Like, I don't think I've seen these two give just a normal, the movie was fun, we enjoyed making it style interview. It always ends up being them crying or them getting emotional, which, like, I understand feeling emotional about a project that is really special to you and really important to you, and like, I think that's fine. But for me as a viewer, as a consumer of this media, it's getting too much for me. I am exhausted by it. This plus Wicked being everywhere, plus these two crying all the time. And I do have to say, like, the way that Ariana will embody whatever her latest project is to the point of it changing her entire personality, it's bizarre to me. Like, I truly can't grasp it. And I keep coming back to, like, this is just a movie. Like, this isn't saving lives, this isn't ending wars, this is literally just a movie. And this is, again, coming from someone who really likes movies and really likes musicals, but it all just seems a little bit insane that we are just accepting the fact that this movie is now everywhere, and also that Ariana is just Glinda IRL now. I also am like, what the fuck was with the work ethic on the set of that film? Because the amount of articles that I've seen about, like, Cynthia Erivo says she didn't take toilet breaks for 3 days whilst filming Wicked, or like Ariana passed out from exhaustion whilst filming for Wicked, and I'm just like, what was going on? These two seem so overworked. I will say they aren't looking healthy to me. They are looking concerning, and we're all just watching it, and I don't know what to do. And I don't know how to react. It feels like we're watching the Capitol from Hunger Games. This is how I feel every time these two pop up on my feed, because they just seem like they're from a completely different planet. Yeah, I would love to know what everyone else is thinking about all this, because I'm personally just so shocked that this has now become the normal type of press route for big hit films. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is a TikTok drama. This is about Tini, a TikTok chef who released a mac and cheese recipe for Thanksgiving, and it sparked so much controversy it feels ridiculous to even say that because it's literally just mac and cheese. And also she released this recipe last year in 2023 and nothing happened. Like there was no controversy around it. People didn't get mad at it. And then this year she releases the exact same recipe and it's like a different story. People are very up in arms about it. But the controversy that I'm going to focus on is on people attacking Tini, saying that her mac and cheese is too expensive and too difficult to make. Now I will say she is a chef. I've seen her make like pretty complicated recipes where she is giving like, you know, the step-by-step instructions, but you would need to feel comfortable in a kitchen to follow along. And I do enjoy cooking and I cook quite a bit, but like, you know, I've seen her prepare like a whole rack of ribs, which is something that I wouldn't be able to do, even following her video, I don't think. And her mac and cheese is like kind of on the same vein. You know, she uses like 3 different types of cheese in it. She uses a special macaroni pasta shape. She also makes a roux for it. And people were getting pissed off at her for this. Like, I saw people complaining that it was too expensive to make, first of all, which she does use nice ingredients because, again, she's a chef. Like, she's going to use good cheese in her mac and cheese. She's not just going to buy like the cheapest $10 1 kilo block on the market. But I just think this is so interesting because this is something I see happening a lot on TikTok, where people aren't allowed to do anything that is like slightly luxurious or slightly expensive without getting completely roasted for it. Like, and it is a little bit crazy to me because she's released this mac and cheese recipe, but she's not holding a gun to your head and saying you have to make it. If this is out of your budget, then don't make this mac and cheese. Like, it's as simple as that. Or if you don't have time to grate 3 different types of cheese, don't make this mac and cheese. Like, just because you see a video pop up on your feed doesn't mean you have to follow the instructions. And I just think some of the noise that people were making online about this, or how upset they were about the ingredients she used and the fact that like the specific shape of pasta that she used, you know, wasn't readily available at their local supermarkets. They had to like drive around to try find it. I don't know, it's just so strange. I'm like, but that's your choice. Like, you chose to follow this exact recipe. You could have also just made the executive decision to use a different shape of pasta. I don't know, I find it so bizarre. I'd love to know if you've seen this drama, what your thoughts are on it. People need to remember that just because a video pops up on their feed doesn't mean they have to act on it. Like, I saw this recipe too and I was like, oh, that looks nice, but I'll probably won't make it just because I personally don't want to buy 3 different blocks of cheese. It's a bit, you know, I've got my own like 10-minute mac and cheese recipe that does the trick for me. But yeah, it's this weird thing where people feel so entitled to every video that pops up on their feed. One of the more viral videos that popped up out of this was 2 girls who decided to make the mac and cheese and then added Tini and were like, this tastes disgusting. We'd rather eat Kraft mac and cheese. This was so tricky to make. The ingredients cost us $145, which also, that's crazy. I don't understand how their ingredient cost came to that. They were like, we had to buy a special grater to grate the cheese, which I'm like, I don't understand that either, because what do you mean by a special grater? Like, I'm so confused. And they, yeah, basically called her out saying like, your recipe is shit. The funniest thing is that they do show their end product and it just looks nothing like Tini's mac and cheese. So I feel like there was definitely some user error involved or some steps that weren't followed correctly. Again, why are they mad at her for that? You chose to make this. It's just, it's so bizarre to me. I don't really get it. And I have followed Tini for some time, so maybe I am feeling a bit protective of her. If I saw a recipe come up on my feed and it used a bunch of ingredients that I didn't want to buy, I wouldn't make it. It's as simple as that. It just, the fact that they're now blaming her for their shit mac and cheese is wild. I mean, a lot of people have also been defending Tini as well and like making parody videos of those girls' TikTok, to the point where they actually then came out with a video saying it was satire, which is like, I don't think it was though. But I'll post some clips to the video anyway, and you can let me know what you think. Alright, last thing I just want to discuss, a bit more lighthearted, is the fact that Jacob Elordi now has a beard. Why is this news? It shouldn't be. Well, first of all, people are shocked. People are like, wow, this is the craziest thing to happen in 2024, which is pretty wild. But the beard doesn't look good. I will say that much. The beard is not great. It doesn't suit him. I don't even know when he grew it, because I feel like we saw photos of him recently and he didn't have it, and then suddenly he had a fully grown beard. So I don't know how he did that. And yeah, people are not into it. Some people are saying he looks like a lumberjack. I don't know. I feel like he looks like a 50-year-old from like the Regency era. He looks like someone who would have forced me to attend a ball and join high society. But here's why I want to talk about the beard, because my theory for why he's suddenly debuting this scruffy beard and completely changing his appearance is because I think he's trying to look more like Heathcliff, the main character of Wuthering Heights. If you recall, earlier this year, it was announced that there was going to be a remake of Wuthering Heights, the classic novel by Emily Bronte. And it was announced that Margot Robbie was going to be playing Catherine and Jacob Elordi was going to be playing Heathcliff. Now, soapbox moment, because Wuthering Heights is one of my favorite books, if not like my favorite book of all time. And Heathcliff, the character that Jacob Elordi is meant to portray, is meant to be a person of color. And I know it's not explicitly written anywhere in the text what his exact ethnicity or race is, but it is so heavily portrayed that part of his character and part of what makes Heathcliff the way he is because he is a person of color and he is like racially discriminated in this little village that he gets raised in. And I just don't know how someone like Jacob Elordi, who is like the most white man that you can picture, how he is going to bring that to his performance of Heathcliff. And Heathcliff in the older version, you know, because the story starts from when him and Catherine are kids and then they get older. And when he's older, I'm pretty sure he does, from memory, have a beard. So I'm like, is he trying to show us the vision and get us on board with him playing this character? I don't know. Either way, I am not here for it. And I'm not here for him being Heathcliff. I was kind of hoping that when everyone was getting up in arms about it, that they would maybe, you know, he would step down from the project maybe and let someone else have this role, but this hasn't happened yet as far as I know. So yeah, interesting. I'm wondering if this beard is like his way to try and make himself seem appropriate for the character. We shall see. Maybe I need to use some bot comments to drive Jacob Elordi off of the Wuthering Heights project and make it seem like everyone has the same opinion as me. But these are my trending topics for the week. Just a little catch up. Next week we've got a big feud that I will be getting into, so I wanted to just release a little short lighthearted listen ahead of that. But yeah, get prepped for next week. It's gonna get pretty dark. But that's all from me today. I hope everyone is having a great week and of course keeping out of trouble. Don't get into any feuds, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.